We are back in the C-Space studio here at CES 2023. For those of you who were watching the live stream in our previous interview, yes, that was an alarm, but we are all okay and back to business. And speaking of back to business, here's a guest who's making a return appearance, coming back to the C-Space studio, Geoff Schiller, now with Vice Media, where you are the Executive Vice President of the commercial business there. Welcome back.
Thank you, happy to be here. It's 3 years, too long.
Exactly, and a lot has happened. Some things have happened in your life as well. You've joined Vice Media. So first, maybe just kind of, I think people might have a visceral understanding of what Vice Media means. You and I were talking before this, it's kind of the idea of edgy documentaries. Maybe that's kind of the brand people know if they know it peripherally. But give us a snapshot of the overall Vice empire.
Yeah, it's so interesting. When I was checking in, getting my badge that I'm not wearing right now, that's the first thing that comes to mind. It's like the documentaries, the sort of like hard-hitting, behind the lines of like, you know, sort of places that nowhere else can go.
Yeah.
But really Vice Media Group is this diversified portfolio of everything from studio to publishing, certainly news, as mentioned, but like really at its core, it's a youth media company.
Yeah, and so how do you define youth? How old do you have to be to not be a youth anymore?
I'm definitely not
young
a youth.
at heart, maybe? Is that
yeah, exactly. Look, I mean, I think part of the industry's challenge has always been sort of tethering to a generational moniker.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, we're a millennial company, we're
right.
a Gen Z. We are squarely focused on young people. So what does that mean? 18 to 34 with probably more of a focus on the 18 to sort of 24, you know, 25 to 34, depending on which one of our brands, like a refinery. 29 definitely skews more like that, but like generally youth means young people.
But I mean, I imagine that as people age, and we all do, you want to stay in that young demographic, so the company's going to kind of continually evolve and change to meet the needs of that kind of audience.
Exactly, and that's been the sort of guiding principle since it was a, you know, Montreal-based zine, and so I think the audience has since migrated. Today, it's TikTok, it's Instagram, it's Snap, it's all the places that you would expect young people to consume content. That's where Vice is.
Yeah. Are you on, you are on linear TV as well, right?
Yeah,
if I wanted to watch in the traditional way, I could.
Uh-huh.
But you have quite a challenge because you're running the commercial business and you're trying to monetize this brand across all these different types of content and outlets for it. How do you think about that challenge?
First and foremost, client and what will make their life easier. And so I think, you know, through the lens of we have omnichannel assets, is that how they plan all the time? Not necessarily. So because we have all of this sort of surround sound capability doesn't mean we're always going to use it 100% of the time. So it starts with what's the base client need, and then we deploy our assets. So that could be we're doing work that is driven more through the lens of like typical creative commercial work. That could be through Pulse Films. It could be long form that we work with the Netflix, the streamers of the world, and that could be through Vice Studios, or it could be traditional advertising, and that's where our publishing assets come in. We'd always be more than happy to engage across everything all at once, kind of like that movie, you know, everything.
Everything Everywhere All at Once, I think it's called. Yeah.
But, you know, those are special occasions that, you know, really I think are few and far in between versus the sort of lead with client need and deploy the assets that make the most sense first.
And are you often guiding your clients as far as what kind of advertising, what kind of content will actually resonate with this audience? And do you have to kind of give them new insights they might not otherwise have because you have them as the media company?
Absolutely. I think what makes Vice special and unique in a very crowded space is we sort of represent the beating heart of young people. So in terms of creative compass, we're that first call where it's like, we want to understand youth culture. Where is it? Where's it going?
Yeah.
What are the things that are motivating young people as far as like issues that matter to them? Who are they following from an influence lens? And then I think the other sort of secret sauce that we have is it's not about what's happening right now. We certainly report on that, we write on that, we provide utility for millions of people on that, but it's like where things are going, and it's not just about us reporting on it, it's leading. We'll sort of be the ones that'll say, we just found this musician or this chef or this trend. So I think as far as the brands and helping them, we're uniquely positioned to be, essentially a maximum value partner for that reason, versus like the sort of everybody's, saying we're like content commerce or something, sort of more jargony. We're providing real value.
Do young people have a certain set of expectations when it comes to the way that they are marketed and advertised to, that you have to meet, that are maybe different from how other generations might think about it?
Absolutely, and I think again, Vice is incredibly well positioned. So we were talking about this earlier. You take news, the least trusted content format for a variety of reasons. Fake news, disinformation, general apathy, and Vice is the most trusted name in news for young people. So I think they expect authentic, real portrayals. They expect representation. And not sort of performative representation, but real representation, so they can see the people that are on their TV screen or on their computer screen or on their phone that look like them, that talk like them, that act like them. So I think like for us, dealing with young people, all the things that sort of we do inherently are designed to attract young people. And so we're in a really good position to, because we are so authentic, because we are representative, because we tell the stories that maybe other folks are afraid to. But I would say, the sort, that was the long-winded answer. The short-winded, they can sniff out inauthenticity and sort of BS from a mile away.
Even if, I imagine that's true, even if there's someone who's doing something inauthentic, and then maybe even making a meta self-reference to the fact that it's inauthentic, is even that too inauthentic for this crew? I mean, I think it's, for folks who grew up in different generations and created advertising for other kinds of generations, it might be challenging to shift your mindset into like, how authentic do I really have to be? How much of myself am I going to show? If advertising is all about what you say and what you don't say, but I'm used to not saying certain things, maybe I have to say them now. I'm fishing a little bit, but I'm just trying to understand what the heck is up with young people these days, and what do they actually want?
They want to be heard, and they want to be heard, and they want to have a 360 loop where it's not just about you telling them, it's a conversation. And that's really been driven by the creator sort of landscape. And that's why creators have really disrupted everything, because they are the people. Our greatest competition is young people, and our greatest sort of, obviously golden goose is young people.
You mean competition as far as if there's a piece of Vice content on TikTok or something else, they could just as easily watch something else that's kind of user-generated,
because they're creating content on their own.
Right.
They in turn, become somewhat a competitor. But what do you do when you have a competitor? You get better. You sort of push each other, and so and then to some extent you bring them into the fold. And that's what we're doing. That's why we have our correspondents, again, that speak to young people. We have hosts that speak to young people. So I think it's an interesting dynamic. I wouldn't say it's unique to us. Every media company competes with young people.
Sure.
But we just happen to meet them where they are, treat them, the way that they have asked us to treat them, and then, watch the sort of fireworks ensue.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, the idea that every company is competing with young people, but maybe you're one of the companies that's actually admitting it, or maybe facing that truth with honesty. And maybe that's a differentiator for you. I know that you have a partnership with Twitch that you want to tell us something about. So what's going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. Super excited. So Refinery, long ago, was leading the way from a progressive perspective in terms of shining a light on underrepresented communities. So in keeping with that, a year ago, we launched a franchise called Good Game. Good Game spotlights non-male gamers, so female, non-binary gamers. We know from Gamergate years ago that non-male gamers have been trolled, and it's just been a very toxic space where then you look on Twitch, you look in the sort of influencer-verse, and the majority of really massive followings are tied to non-male gamers. And so we launched Good Game, seen it grow over the last year. Then about 6 months ago, we launched Good Game Live on Twitch, which is a weekly stream. Also seen incredible growth, both live and on VOD. And this week we're announcing a partnership more directly with Twitch, outside of us just being on Twitch, where we can actually package up the scale of Twitch with the premium brand safe hour-long stream of good game and go to advertisers that are saying, I want to get some test and learn within gaming more broadly, or I want to leverage some of my diversity, equity, and inclusion budgets to reach this audience of non-male gamers in a heavily male-dominated space. So in essence, it's a partnership that allows for us to trade on the scale of Twitch with the contextual relevance of good game.
Well, congratulations on that announcement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you mentioned the term brand safe. Does your particular company, when you're working with advertisers, require them to sometimes rethink the term brand safe or what that means? I guess I'm thinking like, a younger person might not care if there's profanity in an ad, for example, where an older person might. Or maybe there's just different kinds of things that can appear in an ad, different sentiments that may be actually brand safe in this context.
It's a great question. There's not a one-size-fits-all answer.
Sure.
I will say most brands still are erring on the side of conservative relative to, profanity or anything that maybe from an editorial lens might be something that we do without batting an eye. So, when we think about branded content collaborations, first and foremost, it's like, what are the directives that are coming from the client, and then how do we come together and not compromise their voice, not compromise our voice, but again, hold true to what our task is, which is to create meaningful results. And that's, all of our brands are, if everyone else is in 1080p, speaking of CES, we're in 8K. And that is the secret weapon that is the Vice Media portfolio. So it doesn't really become an issue because they trust that they're coming to us for that creative firepower.
Yeah. One last question to end us out here. We're looking at 2023. 2023 will be the year of blank.
Profitability.
There we go. I would expect nothing less from the head of commercial business at Vice Media.
Exactly.
Geoff Schiller, thanks so much for joining us here at the C-Space studio.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
We really appreciate you coming, and we really appreciate you for watching. This is the C-Space studio at CES 2023. I'm James Kotecki. Keep it here because more great conversations are just ahead.